Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to the first of the sessions on this track today. My name is Sheena Whyatt. I am chairing the session today, but you don't want to listen to me at all. You've come here to listen to our two fabulous speakers this morning who are going to talk to you about mentoring. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand you over to David and Eva. David, take the floor.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me this morning. The Prince's Trust, I hope some of you know who we are, but if not, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. Do you remember the first day of work of your current job role? Do you remember the first day that you came to work in this current role? I certainly remember at the Prince's Trust, firstly because I had two meetings in the morning on the first day. The first meeting was I met a young lady who she'd come out of prison. We'd helped her set up a cafe, and this was the day she got her kids back from care. This is the first day she saw them after 4 years. So you can imagine the emotion of that young lady on that particular time. The second meeting I had of the day, another young lady had sent us a note the previous evening at about 10 o'clock at night via email saying she was going to commit suicide, which we picked up at 9 o'clock the next morning, which was 6 hours too late, and we lost that young lady. So first day, it tells you a little bit about the type of things that you're going to expect in your job at anywhere, such as the Prince's Trust. Now, I don't know if you know a lot about what we do, but every year we support 70,000 young people. So this isn't supporting in terms of measuring how far they've travelled or how much of the content they've looked at. This is 70,000 life-changing moments. So this is, we've got them a job, or we've got them to start a new business. The young people we work with, well, certainly when I first joined the Trust, I thought they were probably somebody else's kids, because mine are pretty straight and okay. But then you actually look at the young people who we're working with and you understand a little bit that actually it could just as well be my kids or yours. Yes, we do work with people who are victims of rape and bullying and abuse, some mental health issues, but a lot of the people we work with, something's happened in their life which has taken them in a direction that wasn't planned. Usually it's a loss of a parent or a loss of a grandparent or something like that. And so you would think that your children are going in a straight and honest direction, and all of a sudden things change. And I think that's the key thing that I see from the thousands of young people we work with. So I know that from the people here at this conference this week, a lot of the children, or there'll be a fair number of the children, that will be customers of the Prince's Trust. So when I'm talking to you today about what we do, please don't think of it of somebody else's children. It could just as well be yours, mine, or anybody else's. The Trust is good at what it does. Of those young people we work with, the ones we get a job, 8 out of 10 young people who come to us who are looking to get into employment, we get them a job. For those who we start a business with, 75% are still in business and flourishing after 3 years, which is 25% better than the UK average, 40% better than Europe. So we know we're good at what we do. When you look at where the young people have come from and some of the challenges that they've had, and then looking at, for example, the success rate of the businesses that they start, you would be incredibly impressed about what they've actually achieved. But we can slap ourselves on the back and say, yes, we're good, we're successful. But if you look at it through a slightly different lens, we fill all our programs at the Prince's Trust with about 12% of all the inquiries that we get. So 70,000 people, I don't know if you any football fans, but if you look at Old Trafford Football Stadium and you imagine everybody in that stadium on a really packed Saturday afternoon, that's approximately 70,000 people. And for each of those, there's a really different story. So after 40 years, and the Trust has been going for 40 years, we've managed to get to the point where we're helping 70,000 young people a year. If you look at that in terms of the marketplace of people who need our support, that's approximately 4% of the UK marketplace. So after 40 years, we've hit 4%. So frankly, it's not good enough. And this is where I have a slight issue with something called continuous improvement. Every year, we've been working for the last 40 years of doing everything just a little bit better. And if we continue doing everything just a little bit better, in maybe 10 years we'd hit 5%. So we have to do something different and do something much more radical. And this is where sometimes you have to ditch that continuous improvement and do things differently. So we have an ambition, and the ambition comes partly from need and partly because sometimes you need a stake in the ground. And as you're probably aware, Prince Charles, His Royal Highness, is our president, and he gets good press, bad press, as everybody does who's in the public eye, but he really gets the mission to try and help the young people of the UK. And he's put an awful lot of effort, and he put a stake in the ground basically to say, you need to do much better than you're currently doing. And you need to hit an extra 1 million young people over the next 10 years. So what does that mean for us? That means that we have to double the size of the organisation within 3 years to get that run rate. So 70,000 young people, we have to get that to a run rate really pretty quickly of between 100 and 150,000. And the way we think we're going to do that is to use technology and online mentoring. The 88% that we lose, that 88% is spread from a number of different demographics. So we are actually losing those people from a number of different places. So geographically dispersed around the UK, there are some young people who either they can't come to our programs or it's not commercially viable for us to put on a program in that area. We have those who are socially excluded. So these are the ones we can't get out of their bedroom, out of their houses to come to a face-to-face program. Let alone get them onto a face-to-face thing. So we've got those. We also have those who have the time commitment issues. So single parents, carers for parents, for children, for siblings. Some of those would love to come on our programs if only they had the time. When we get, for example, single mothers onto the business startup program, that 75% I told you earlier about flourishing after 3 years, that actually goes up to about 89%. So when we get single mothers actually starting a business, they do incredibly well. So what did we decide to do about it? Well, we took an approach, a rapid prototyping approach. So this is where we took components off the shelf and we put them within our business. And we told the business not to evaluate the technology, but to evaluate the working practice and the business model within the trust and how we might change that to get better volumes through. We built something quickly, and we used a learn fast methodology with that. So when I first arrived at the trust, we were talking about fail fast and all those things. And the first thing that I realized was you have to get the language right, because when I started to talk about fail fast, they sort of said, don't let this guy near the kids because we can't afford to fail. This is about learning really, really quickly. So we built something which is looking at online mentoring. It's about safeguarding. It's about online jobs boards. It's about all those bits all mixed in together. The safeguarding was incredibly important for us. As I told you earlier about, we have young people in a very difficult positions, and some of them are thinking of committing suicide and things like that. So one of the things that was key for us was to make sure that we were able to keep the conversations on the platform, and that the conversations between young people and their mentors would be able to be controlled and measured. So we have what we call behavioural management tools going through the conversations, looking for words and phrases such as to do with abuse, to do with suicide, to do with radicalisation, those sorts of things. We're also building on that now to look at artificial intelligence. So we're looking at the patterns within those conversations to make sure that we can spot things that are going to happen in the future, potentially. And then we can give the mentors some advice and guidance about how they might handle things going forward. It's very difficult to try and say that you can predict the future, but from the team, we believe that there are a number of young people who sat down with their kids this Christmas who wouldn't have been there if we hadn't have got the technology right this year. We've helped probably about 3,000 to 4,000 so far this year, and some of them we've been able to spot real issues and do something about it through the use of technology. The mentoring that we use is bite-sized, it's mobile, so it's within an hour, 2 hours a week. And later on I'm going to show you a video and I'm going to test you afterwards about what value you could add to that young person in an hour or 2 hours in the week. We know that, if you like, the magic of the trust that we have is that we create a trusted relationship between a young person and somebody else. Often they don't have any trust with anybody else, and any trust they've had has been either destroyed or it's been lost, particularly with the loss of a parent. And so they are actually floundering without that. So what we have to do with the online program is to actually find a way of bringing that trusted relationship in an online way. And to do that, we have been looking at different models of mentoring. We did a fair bit of research to see what we thought was actually the place to start with mentoring. And what we've learned is, on most of the things that we've actually tried, is that a lot of the research wasn't actually that good. It gives you a place to start, but then it gives you an opportunity to actually learn and change things as you go. And I'll tell you a little bit about the things we learned in a bit. But what the platform does and how we use it. So I'll give you 2 examples. So we have on our business startup program, which we call Enterprise, we will have a young lady who's setting up a business in Torquay, and that business in the past we would have given a business mentor. Now, if they were in exactly the same business as that young lady, then it was likely there would be a competitor. And secondly, for a lot of the businesses, there wouldn't be a business person that would advise correctly for that business in that area. So right now, we would have somebody perhaps in Newcastle supporting somebody in Torquay who is actually who really understands the business. You know, we had a really good one the other day with a scaffolding company, which was doing exactly that. So we've got what we call a journey mentor, which will take them through the online program. But then we have specialist mentors. So we have a team of specialist mentors who can be brought into that conversation at any moment in time. Some are there constantly, some we have to book to come in. But again, another example, we needed some advice from somebody who wanted international IP law advice. And so we were able to bring in somebody from Denton's in the city, probably one of the top business lawyers in the city, to the smallest business. And that's really what we're trying to achieve, the best business network of advisors to the smallest business anywhere. In the same way, in the employability side, we will have somebody who will take the young person through the online training in terms of the confidence, the CV building, all those sorts of things that you would expect, doing the pastoral care, and with that. But then we'd also have the specialist advisors who will come into the conversation to help them when they're getting to the point of writing their job applications or writing a CV or doing interview practice. So just as examples, if we've got somebody who's going for an interview at TalkTalk, we have a number of mentors online from Vodafone. So they will actually be able to advise the young person what sort of questions they might be getting, to go through some test interview practice, and in terms of helping in the application to help pull out the things within that application that will make it more relevant. We also have organisations coming on board, so we've got the CIPD, they're there as well. So if you can imagine when someone's applying for a job, when it arrives on the recruiter's desk, it's got the Prince's Trust badge on there of somebody who, this is a good application. It's also going to have the CIPD badge on there, that this person's application has been checked by somebody from the CIPD, and then it's, we would hope a lot of those people receiving the applications are probably CIPD members as well anyway, and so they will recognise those 2 things, and it'll be something that they'll be prepared to look at. We also use the community side of things, so if you like, so we've got the journey mentor, the specialist mentor, and then we put the young people into a community. That didn't work as well as we thought. Putting young people into a community, they just sit there and don't do anything. So you actually need to start the conversation and start something happening. And that was really key for us, because in our face-to-face programs, it's very easy for people, when they're all sitting in the same room, to start to talk about something. When you're online, it doesn't quite work that way. So in terms of some of the things we learned, or some of the things that we thought that the research we did was wrong in the first instance, the best way for us to create a really strong relationship between a young person and a mentor is through chat. It's not through video, it's not through face-to-face, it's through chat. The relationships that young people are building right now, that they're used to building, they're building it on things like WhatsApp and things like that. That is comfortable, it's strong, and able to do that. The video side of things, we thought, and when you read the research, the face-to-face video stuff, we thought that was going to be really valuable. It wasn't. In fact, in many of the cases, the sooner if we brought that video relationship in too early, it actually scared the young people off completely. So there's a time to bring that sort of information to the young person. And I know we had the session this morning when it talked about learning patterns and things. I don't actually see that. What we see is that every young person is actually different in terms of what they're trying to learn. It's not about learning in blocks or in varied ways. They will choose to call on a mentor or press the button to say they want a mentor because this is the day that they got kicked down the stairs at school, or this is the day that something terrible has happened in their life. There are so many different reasons that a young person will want to be involved. And when you're looking at the learning, you have to develop the learning in a way that enables them to choose what they do. So we started off by allocating a mentor, by trying to work out what the right time it would be to put the mentor in touch with the young person. And actually, that's the wrong thing completely. You have to give the opportunity for the young person to say when they're ready and if they want to, and then they press the button to say, I want a mentor. And that's when it seems to work the best. So timing is incredibly important. Seeing real-time activity is incredibly important too. I'm managing right now probably 3 young people, and to be able to see their activity and what content they're looking at right now, to be able to talk to them about some of that content is really important. The moment you move away from that and don't do it in real time is the time that you actually start to lose people. It's got to be a journey which is really engaging. They're 2 clicks away from playing on Minecraft or going shopping. So if you lose them, you're going to lose them, and it's very difficult then to get them back again. The way we're recruiting people, we've been doing it the same way for a long time. And how do you put this? I think we need to be smarter in what we do. I don't know if you saw a game that SAP brought out about a year ago, running on Facebook, where it was based around a music festival, and the idea was to move music equipment, recording artists around the game without killing the partygoers in the middle. But between level 3 and moving to level 4, you didn't get to level 4. It said, you're actually really good at this, come for an interview. And I think we need to be much smarter in how we as the Trust pull out that information of the needs of the young person to be able to tell them for the first time that probably they are good at something. A lot of our young people have never been told they're good at anything. So they're told they're good at something, but also with that skill set, with the help of the Trust, we can actually bring them through and help them get a job or start a business. We got permission to start the programme last September. So we spent about 4 weeks doing research. We then put these products into the business. We built our first prototype by December. We did end-to-end testing in January, brought our first 100 young people on in March, and we launched at London Tech Week in July this year. We turned on the marketing on day 1 of London Tech Week. We'd recruited about 3,000 online mentors ready, and we turned off our marketing on day 4 because the demand from the young people blew completely all our resources. Our target is to bring on 10,000 young people this year, 25,000 online next year, and 50,000 the year after. And we're thoroughly confident that we'll hit that, and more so, probably bring that 50,000 on quite a degree earlier. I'm going to play a video now, and I'd like to challenge you a little bit. One is in terms of, if you were a mentor to this young person, in the week before this young lady got a job, would you be able to help her online or on the telephone?
I've watched her slowly destroying herself.
I started drinking when I was about 12, 13. Then it developed into more heavier drugs. It wasn't just my brother, he was my best friend. He didn't want to see his wee sister doing all this. He tried to tell my mum and dad, which I lied about it. I said, no, I'm not taking drugs. They all had a big argument, and he left. About a year after, I got a mail saying your brother's dead. Six months after, and I got the news that my mum was dead. I just ran out the door with no shoes or nothing on and just broke. I had to get put into a psychiatric ward. I did try to commit suicide a few times. I didn't see how much it was hurting my dad at the time. I knew if I didn't have something to do, I would go back on drugs again. And I saw about the Prince's Trust, Make Your Mark. That's when I went up to Marks and Spencer's. It was like the happiest feeling ever. They were like, you got on the course, and I was like, oh my God. At the start, I was really, really shy, and then it's really built my confidence.
She actually is an inspiration to most of the guys here because of where she has came from and to where she is now.
I don't wake up thinking, oh, I have to go to work. I'm like, oh, I have to go to work.
This is unreal. This is unreal because of you. Because of what you've done, how you've got here. It's been life-changing. The worry that has taken off me. Well done, well done.
I think my mum and brother would be really, really proud.
In that week before we were preparing her to go, I guess every time that, but in the week before she went for that first interview, would you have been able to speak to her on the phone to tell her what sort of things that she might be asked for in terms of questions? I think you probably would. I know certainly what we've learnt is you don't have to have a PhD in psychology to know how to help somebody like that. Yes, somebody may have come from a difficult place, but they're not asking for help about that difficult place. They want help about how to get a job. And you can all do that. Right now, I'm recruiting 15,000 online mentors a year. You can imagine recruiting 15,000 anybody takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. It's the same as recruiting anybody that you would do for your organisation. So you have to go through the DBS checks, all that sort of stuff. We've had to build technology so that we can video all the people that we're recruiting. It's a really big challenge. We've got people like Accenture, BT, Deloitte, NatWest. They're all coming on board right now, Barclays, to bring the mentoring program to their staff. One, because they think it's a great skill for their staff to have. It's inspiring. It's something not about what they're doing in their day job. We think we'll probably hit 10,000 by the end of next year as the start of our run rate for those mentors. But we need to do better than that. And the drop-off rate, we're doing really well in some areas of the mentoring and not in others. You know, we've learned a lot about what makes a successful mentor. We've had already 6,000 mentors who we've been working with in the face-to-face world for a long time. Unfortunately, as brilliant as they are in the face-to-face world, they're not really appropriate for online. The young people, when they're going through the platform, they don't read the how-to information. They know it's intuitive. They're there. The mentors that we've got have been, generally are men of a certain age who've been through business, and we need somebody different. We need the people who are digitally savvy, who can actually help us do this sort of stuff. So, I've lost my last there we go, last slide there. The online mentoring works. That's something we do know. You know, just the other week, I don't know if you may not have spotted it, but in the Sunday Times before last, we had one of our young people who started their business with us on the business startup program. Had a full page in the Sunday Times, and as two offers of his business being bought out for a huge amount of money. It makes me wonder what the hell I've been doing all this time, frankly. But you know, it really works. We've got people going into jobs. I need resources to help us to grow. We're very lucky. We're not a charity where we raise money from the individuals. We work with business. So when I called up ARM, the CEO of ARM, and said I needed some technical architects, I got two. I got a team of 20 people from NatWest to help us build the business planning tool that sits within the business startup program. We've got a team from Deloitte looking at the mental matching piece, which again is a piece of huge value for us. Accenture had people working on site with us. JP Morgan are doing another piece of work for us right now in terms of assessment. We have to use people who are the best at what they do. We've put together a team that we hope is the best digital team that I could find in London. We've lifted it out of the Prince's Trust and we've put it into an incubator space, which has absolutely been the best thing that we could ever have done. And the volumes that we're starting to get through, we've doubled the rate in the last 3 weeks. So, huge amount of activity. If you could help in any of those areas, if you have online content that you think would be of value to us, then please come and talk to us. We're always looking for technical skills, from business analysts, you name it. But whether it's you personally or your organisations, if you think you could have spent an hour a week using a tool, something similar to WhatsApp, that will enable you then to talk to that young person and to know that you've got the backing of the Prince's Trust behind you to make sure that even though you may be working with some difficult situations, you've got the people there to help you make those young people succeed. So that's the ask if there is, so thank you very much. And can I introduce, can I take just a couple of questions if there are any? One question while they're just setting up the next laptop.
Thanks very much, that was great. When you're dealing with that many mentors across very, very different industries, how do you ensure sort of quality control, or at least you have a standardized core message, just given that population and the diversity of it?
Yeah, we have, firstly, as much as we've got a portal for our young people, we have a portal for the mentors. So, if you like, the mentors can see for the young people their activity in real time, what components they're looking at. On the mentoring side, it's the same. So we have, if you like, people mentoring the mentors. So we have people looking at in real time what activity they're doing at any one moment. We put them through a training program which is online, and there's, if you like, 2 buttons that has to be pressed. One is from the mentor saying, I'm now ready to take a young person. And also from our side saying, we actually think this person is ready to take a young person. So once those 2 things happen, then we enable them to go through. But again, everything that we do is being managed. The conversations are being scrutinised. Even on when we do get into the video conversations, we're transcribing the audio into text, running that text through those behavioural management tools, and then soon we'll be taking that out into the AI engine to look for those predicted things in the future.
Yes, hello, David.
Is it working?
My name is, again, I'm coming from Denmark. I think it's a very important task you and your group are working with. If I could ask you about general data protection regulation, how can your organization take care of those new important rules that are coming from the European Union?
Sorry, but in terms of the data protection law?
Yes, the new personal data regulation starting the 25th of May.
Yeah, GDPR. Yeah. GDPR is a really interesting position for us. But in fact, the main pressure we have on that is on our face-to-face mentoring, because we have young people and mentors talking to each other via email, which we can't allow anymore. So we have to, because when you're using email, there's nothing to prevent somebody forwarding on what's called Category 9 data, forwarding it on, and that is a big red no-no. So we've been advised to take everything onto platform, and when it's on platform, we have then control. We can actually see the activity, and we've got a record of everything that takes place. So it's really key. We are less concerned about data security and more concerned about safeguarding. So sometimes you have to take a balance of risk about what we're trying to do. For a lot of organisations, they make it as impersonal as possible to try and avoid all the risks in terms of data protection. We have a really good relationship with the ICO, the Information Commissioner here, so that we have a conversation that explains that we can take a risk-based approach. It's either we look at what's best for the young person. Is it more about safeguarding or is it more about data? Sorry, I've taken too much time.
No,
is that okay?
Interesting. Thank you. And David, definitely we need to speak afterwards, because I will be presenting the other side of mentoring, more corporate one, but that actually helped upskill not fully digitally savvy people. So we might want to definitely talk. My name is Eva, and I will be exactly presenting reverse mentoring right now on the base of what we did at AXA starting a few years back. So there are two things in the context. One, organizations definitely need to change, transform, be more agile, and be up to date with how fast the world is changing. And on the other side, there is a lot of millennials in the workplace. It's the largest generation so far. It is by 2020 we will be 50% of the whole workplace. And millennials as a group, we don't have a very good image. Meaning we are impatient, we want our results immediately, we change jobs if we don't like it, we like to have impact as well, and to see that what we are doing is important. And it created a bit of clashes in corporate environment, notably at AXA, where I was working at that time. So based on those two context sites, at AXA we decided to try something new, which was mentoring, but to put it on its head. Put it upside down, full on. So normally, traditionally, mentoring is a more senior person mentoring the younger person. Here we said, okay, well, those are digital natives who know a lot. Why don't we let them mentor the executives? So this is how it, that was the main objective of the program, was to really on one side upskill the senior executives on digital knowledge, on customer centricity, on user centricity, etc. But a same importance was put on bridging the gap between the two generations, and starting to create a dialogue rather than, you're too impatient for me. So that was the main objective of the program. How did it look really in practice? One-to-one sessions, face-to-face, and this is important because we are speaking about digital mentoring. And what David mentioned, mentoring online, here we really focused on mentoring face-to-face because the organization or the participants were mature enough to start talking about digitally. So that was the first thing. Once or twice a month for a couple of months, minimum of 6 sessions, and strictly hands-on exercises. So there was a strict no slides policy, and I was there to kick someone if they use slides. No bullshit discussions. The idea was really to put the senior executives in the shoes of the customers and of the users. We wanted them to try things out. They knew everything. They knew all the numbers. They knew how much WhatsApp was bought by Facebook for, but they have never used WhatsApp or Facebook. So we wanted them to really feel what it is to be a digitally savvy or a digital native in that sense. And all in a very intimate and informal environment. So that was crucial for the program to succeed. Believe me, the senior executives, we're talking about an organization that is traditional sector of insurance, usually quite boring, with hierarchy, and it's a French company, so the hierarchy would be N+25. And believe me, that was a huge step from the senior executives to open up and say, I don't know everything. I want to learn and I want you to teach me, even though you just started your career, and I normally think that the worth would be a bit lower. And adaptable content, which means the program itself was really customized for the needs of the mentee. That made it successful. It went crazy viral very quickly. At the very beginning, when I started the program, we had doubts. How can we scale it? It's face-to-face, it's one-to-one meetings, it's adaptable content. How can we really scale it? It won't really happen, it will just use it for the 20 top executives at AXA. But to be very frank, it went crazy. In 1 year, those are the numbers based on a year after we launched the program. We already had more than 1,000 participants in 45 legal entities of AXA in 26 countries, and a lot of hours spent. And this is only the official data, because based on the program, the minimum requirement was to meet 6 times mentor-mentee. Very often, they met informally after that, for lunches, coffees, whatsoever. So they've really managed to create a very informal environment. So very nice feedback. What was really great for the mentees was really that they got mentees, which means senior executives, they got this human face. They were perceived as someone scary with a high position, and especially younger people who started their career, they were scared of them. And obviously, because they came into the environment when they were said that any single decision needs to be validated by 15 people on top of them in the hierarchy. So the and when I talked to senior executives, they were normal people. They were really nice, they were really humble, and I saw this huge disproportion between how they really are and what they really want to do, and then the image. So obviously, one-to-one, you can easier break that image. But what we are talking, if we're talking about an organization of 150,000 people around the world, so social media here and being present, showing their own voice, really helped them with their image, which was really shaking the culture. The second thing, they admitted that they are vulnerable. And that was a huge thing, to put the human face to them as well, and give them, surprisingly, more power at the end within the organization. Whereas for the younger people, they got exposure. They, anyway, use digital every day, and they were really happy to share. That was a really astonishing thing to see, that they're passionate about sharing their personal usage, their normal life. So that was very positive, but this is me saying things. I want you to listen to those 3 short testimonials of both the mentee and the mentor.
So what did I like the most about reverse mentoring was to see the mentee progress, and to see him get excited about these new digital trends, about new apps, new ways of doing his personal life or professional life.
I started without any tool except emails and my computer, and now I have access to information on Google or through Feedly, Pocket. I can provide some people I have to work with key pieces of information in 5 minutes. I feel like modern, you know?
The reverse mentoring program has changed my business perspective in quite a fundamental way, I must say. Because it has helped me to really put me in the shoes of customers of the modern day and age. And I'm not only saying young customers, I'm saying of digitally able customers.
That said, that was all public information. If you search reverse mentoring at AXA, you will find pretty much most of it. And now I'd like to share with you 5 lessons learned from the backstage. That is not really out there, so it's a gift for you. If you would like to tweet, though, I'm very happy if you tag me as well, at Sulima. I always love receiving new tags on Twitter, being the millennial, obviously. So number 1, choose the right team, selecting the right mentors. It was a key success factor for the program, without any doubt. And I'm not saying be extremely strict with the selection. The ideal mentor for us was a person, that kind of person that when you meet, within 10 minutes, you're inspired to download 5 new apps and do this and that, and see how things work digitally. When you meet for a beer, they would check in their beer, and they would check you in, and then they will tag you somewhere and Instagram you whatsoever. That was the kind of passion we were looking for. So they really needed to be heavy users of digital world, especially social media at that time, already when we were selecting them. The idea to prepare them was not to really prepare them on the digital tools, was more how to translate their personal usage into sharing to the mentee in the way that they would learn. So selection was really important. You might ask whether the age, we put an age cap. We are still speaking about digital natives and our senior executives whatsoever. Politically correctly, we didn't put an age cap, but then the average, and we let every legal entity, every country to choose whether they put it or not. And some did, which was totally accepted. It was less than 30 years old at the time. Some had a bit more mature mentors as well. But I must say, I trained and I prepared most of them, and I must say, personally, it was much harder to train them. Because even though they were hugely, one thing was the digital usage, another thing was the way of thinking and the mindset. So I can't really say, if you're over 30, then you definitely won't think exactly the same way. So it was a bit blurry as the line, but still what we wanted really to achieve is to bridge the gap between different generations. So still the average age would be around, 28, 30 years old as mentors. But we also had interns that started at 23, and we also had people who were 35. So it was a bit moved. What was important was that the digital knowledge was not, we didn't know our employees, so we had no idea whether they're heavy users of social media, whether they're influencers online. We had cases of a person who was extremely shy at work, and then she had 35,000 followers on her Twitter account under her pseudonym, etc. So she was a perfect mentor that normally HR would never know. So the first reflex was, oh, those little, those younger guys are going to have great exposure to senior management. Let's take the high potentials, and then we can improve their career trajectory. We tried that. And so basically, I was when we started, the HR gave me the list of the high potentials, and I met with them and saw whether they would fit to the program or not. And I rejected 80% of them. And it's not because they were not great; they were great. It's just for the program, they were not the perfect, the passionate guys whatsoever. So we opened it for everyone, and we put it upside down again, because based on the program and on their performance as well, we had little pearls that were really hidden in the organization, and they turned out to be extraordinary. Number 2, can I have the mic? I would like a volunteer quickly, because we really don't have time. Okay, you're going to be my volunteer. Thank you, Raymond. I would like you to teach Matt, you say?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, I would like you to teach Matt something, especially, if it can be digital, that's great, but it can be something in 20 seconds. Go.
Do you know how to use a smartphone?
Not really.
Brilliant. Do you know what it does?
You can talk in it.
Brilliant. What else can you do?
Play games.
What would be one question you would have if you saw a smartphone?
Thank you. That was very nice. Well, you can continue, obviously, later on. Thank you so much. I know it was very mean from my side. But what I wanted to share with you, the key lesson number 2, do not underestimate preparation. What we could see, the first thing he did here, he started asking questions to feel the ground and to see what is her need, which is a great start, and which means you need to be prepared for that as well. So as a preparation part, AXA invested a lot in preparing the mentors. So it was not only selecting the right people, it was really preparing them well for mentoring purposes. And I must say, I'm a little lazy naturally. So when I took the job and I started thinking about reverse mentoring, I was like, okay, let me do it by myself, right? And I found 3 guinea pigs executives who agreed to be my mentees. And we scheduled some sessions, and I started sweating. I started being so stressed before. And I'm not the kind of person that is the most shy in the whole world. And I don't have much problems connecting with no matter what level in the hierarchy. Still, I started sweating because I didn't want to be perceived as stupid. Or, you know, I had a lot at stake. I was still at the beginning of my career, right? So I started preparing, and I had no idea what to prepare, what not, where to go, etc. And that made me think that I'm not the only one. Most of the mentors will might have the same feelings at the beginning, and we don't want them to stress about something that is if we can avoid it. So we put in place 2 days of preparation training for each mentor, and on top of that, Bible, reverse mentoring Bible, which was, I created myself 300 plus different activities, what you can do with the mentee during the session, based on different digital tools. So we're speaking about the tools itself because, for example, I would show them even Google. Everybody knows Google right now. But I wanted the mentors to feel confident enough to, first of all, guide the mentee during the session, and not only say, hey, you know, this is so cool, and check it out because I'm doing it, and the mentee would not learn anything. The idea was for them to really learn something, so we needed to really focus on pedagogical skills of the mentors. But also, I took another 10 mentors at the beginning to try things out, and everybody was doing the same work. We were doubling our efforts because I was searching for the same stuff online, and they were doing the same thing. That's where the 300 plus different activities came from. What can you do on different tools and different areas of digital world? And well, in time, the Bible was huge. It was like this big. So the first time I printed it out, which broke my heart, and for ecological reasons. And the look on the face of the mentors, okay, you want me to? I'm out. So I was smart enough to put it all in the mobile application, so they didn't know how much was there. What was also very important was that the mentors created, well, the 2 days of training really helped them bond with each other, and therefore they created their own support group. So it wasn't just me driving the whole thing, it was them either going for a beer or a lunch or whatever together. It was very informal, obviously using different digital tools as well, LinkedIn group and Facebook group, WhatsApp, whatsoever, where they really shared a lot. Oh, I had this question from my mentee, I don't know how to deal with it, who can help, etc. So they really started creating the support group that they really needed, but it came basically from the bottom and not really put to them. So this is the program that I suggested at the very beginning of the journey, and I like to call it flexibility within the frames, because as you can see, there are like 6 bubbles. The first one, getting started, which we could see here, getting the needs of the mentee was extremely important, and then a couple of different groups, I would say, of activities. What can I do with the digital world? So it can be more advanced, less advanced whatsoever, how to protect myself, how to share, how to use social media if that was needed, how to learn how our business is working whatsoever. The idea was really that was just a support, and that was just a kind of a menu for the mentees to choose from. Because if you wanted to do 300 plus activities based on this, it would take more than 20 hours. And that would be a modest estimation without the discussions. But I asked them only to have 6 meetings. So literally they could pick and choose what they wanted, what they thought their mentees would need, based on the first getting started meeting. And so for me, how did I build that one that was adapted to the needs of the mentees, senior executives at AXA at the time? I went everywhere. I asked a lot of questions to the mentees, to the executives. What do you want? What do you need? Where do you see your needs? And very often, sometimes they would have very strict needs. I want to learn how to code. I was like, I need to protect my mentors as well. So that was also helped as protecting the mentors. This is the offer. If you happen to have a mentor who can teach you how to code, great, but you can't expect everything from them. And definitely they're not your IT support, which happen very often. So I went there very often. Also they said, well, I don't know what I don't know, so you better tell me what I need to know, what is the minimum. And for that I met a lot of subject matter experts as well, to not only have my own idea, but learn from external world and internal world. There's a story, I'm not sure I should share it though. Because English is not my mother tongue. I'm Polish originally, and that was based in France. So at that point of time, AXA recruited a new head of mobile. So the person, Stefan, who was extremely mature when it comes to digital topics. He was a great expert, and he is still. And I really wanted to meet with him and get his feedback on this one. And he was super busy, so he had literally 15 minutes and we were running. He was running to the meeting, I was running behind him, showing him the printed version of this one just to get his feedback. And for that, I really needed to explain very quickly what is the project I'm working on. He has never heard of reverse mentoring before. So I'm saying, Stefan, you know, I'm doing this super innovative program. You know, the idea is to really shake the culture of the company. We really need to disrupt the way we think, we thought, we do stuff. So I match digital natives and senior executives, and they have 6 meetings. Believe me, I've never been so red in my whole life. Unfortunately, Stefan started laughing as well. I was like, yeah, well, when you said it's going to disrupt the business, I didn't expect that. But it was an inspiration for the key lesson number 3. It doesn't work. Which was disrupt the game, on how to promote such program, how to make it still comfortable for people to participate in, and how to make it fun and cool. And I couldn't use normal communication methods that we used before, because the whole program was supposed to be disruptive. So we needed to find innovative ways, etc. So based on the meeting with Stefan, I was going everywhere, and I think people got really tired of me at some point, so that's why they let me speak about the program, and then they let me meet with them. So I found a window of opening. There was a big group ExCom meetings, executive committee meeting in Paris. The top 20 people at AXA, super senior executives, well, basically gods in the company. And I managed to negotiate with them to have a lunch slot. So they would be eating lunch and I would be speaking. Fine with me, as long as I can brag about the program and get some volunteers. So I went there and I showed them this. I see some laughs. So who knows what is this app? Hand up. Oh, don't be shy. It's fine. Okay, great. This app is called Tinder, which is a dating application. And yes, I received an image of that girl who showed Tinder to the group CEO. Basically, how it works is it's very easy. I set a couple of criteria. Who am I looking for? And let's say Alison, 22, is looking for men, and she sees Justin, and if she likes him, she can just swipe right and show him that she likes him. If Justin will see on his application Alison as well, he can swipe left or right. If he swipes left, that means I'm not interested in Alison. But if he swipes right, that means there is a match. This one. And that means they can speak to each other, they can chat, and then they can meet, and then they can have babies. So I showed that the application for the group XCOM, not to ask them to join it, but also to show that this is an application that has 10 million daily active users. Active, daily, every day they go on this application, they keep swiping, meeting, etc. It really shows, and 79% of them are millennials. It shows the way millennials think as well, which is just different. I want to have positive reinforcement because I only know that I got matched with someone liked me as well. I don't know that I've been rejected. I have very quick feedback and information, and I'm very impatient, so it's very important for me. I had a lot of choices, and believe me, when it comes to being impatient, if you don't speak to a guy for within 1 hour that he sends hi, he says, "Oh, you're not interested. Okay, I'm out." So that was the way of showing them, based on this one application and the others, the mindset and the behavior behind the application. So at the end, the applications were just pretty much an excuse to really go dig deeper. But it was a very natural way of understanding what it is. Number 4, trick the resistance. Obviously, we had resistant people. First things first, so when I went everywhere and I bragged about Tinder, I got a couple of volunteers, which was great because I got ambassadors of the program and I didn't force anyone. So it wasn't a forced program for everyone, just volunteers. And usually the ones who could, when I asked the volunteers to raise their hands and everybody saw that the CEO, deputy CEO, and all the top positions were raising hands, everybody else immediately, okay, me too. So that was a very tricky way to get them into the program. But also, the other side, mentors needed to be really prepared how to speak the language of the mentees as well, how to get there. So for example, we showed them this, who knows what is this application? Hands up, more hands, great. This is Candy Crush, it's a game. And it's actually even going to play. Which is a very simple game, you swipe through, you need to get things in a row and then they disappear and you get points. It has a very irritating music at the beginning, but then you get into a trance and you can't stop doing it. Right? So one meeting, I had one of my reverse mentoring sessions with one of the mentees, director of HR of one local entity, and we were outside in a cafe in Paris. So I asked her to play this game. She's like, "Are you kidding me? Seriously? I'm so busy and you want me to play this stupid game? There's no way." I said, "Okay." And at that point of time, I was really saved by the waitress who came in with our coffees, and she's like, "Oh my God, Candy Crush!" I was like, opportunity here. "Oh, you know this game?" She says, yeah, well, I used to play so much, but I needed to stop. Why did you play? Well, that was a way for me to connect with my daughter. So then the HRD said, "Oh, that's interesting, you know," and she didn't even pay her yet. So I keep asking questions. Why did you stop? And she's like, "It was too addictive." And basically, if you lose, there are two options. Either you pay money directly and you can keep playing, or you can share and get support from your friends on Facebook, which means basically free advertising and the app going viral everywhere. So if you don't want to pay, you share it on Facebook. So she says, I shared with everyone. They hated me already, and plus I was impatient, so I ended up paying as well. So that's it, and that was the moment my mentee caught in and said, oh, it's not only within our organization, it's the whole world doing that. And still I'm not fully convinced, it's still just a game, you know? How can you compare it with insurance? It's, well, it's much more serious topic. And then we started a discussion about new business models, and when I told her that this app made 2 billion per year, now, and at the top almost 5 billion as a company king, and they had 2,000 people, and AXA had 150 around the whole world. She started seeing it differently as a new ways of also doing business, how to be engaging with the customers, how to have guerrilla marketing and how to spread it out, etc. So that was the way of speaking their language that proved, well, really cool. And last but not least, number 5, be willing and open as an organization. Be willing to have someone to shake your culture or to open up a little bit. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be extremely willing and open directly to be slapped. What we want is just have one little door opening that there is a way we can have some impact. And for me, I'm a millennial, and this is those are exactly the shoes that I was wearing when I had my interview for that position. And I was at AXA before. I quit. I'm impatient. I wanted a lot of different experiences. I was scuba diving in Asia, and then I came to Paris just for a single moment, and I bumped into my ex-boss, and she says, oh my God, you have the best timing ever. Today, HR called me if I'm still in touch with you because we are thinking about this program and we don't know how to really do it, and we think you could do it. In my mind, definitely, I'm not coming back to Paris. I'm not coming back to corporate life. I'm planning to live in a remote island in somewhere in Micronesia, wearing those shoes and shorts on top of that. And I said, okay, well, I'm in Paris today, so you can tell the HR I can meet with them today, like I am, but you can see me, so forget about it. I said, okay, fine. Within 1 hour, I got the job. And that was the indication for me as a millennial that there was that opening, that even though I wasn't suited up, and I definitely didn't fit the company culture, at least on the appearance, that was the proof for me that might be something happening in there, and they might be really willing to get their culture shaped. So that was a plus for me, and that's how this whole story ends. Thank you.
Okay, so we have time for a couple of questions. If you'd like to wave your hand at me. I know there was a lady who had a question for you, David, at the end of your bit of Q&A, so I'm just going to go and find her. Hang on 1 second.
First of all, thank you. Both presentations really great, and it was great to get that very, very different, different view on mentoring. The question for David was around you're recruiting these 15,000 mentors. Obviously, that role, I would see, as a huge responsibility on the mentors. How do you equip the mentors to be able to potentially deal with quite challenging and difficult situations? Because mentoring in a business sense or in a corporate world, I would imagine would be quite different from the situations people might find themselves in.
Yeah. Certainly, as mentioned before, there is training and all that sort of stuff, but we have a group of specialist mentors sitting behind the volunteer mentors that we have. So one, we are looking at the conversations and butting our noses into the conversation when we need to, but also when a conversation starts to go in a direction which the volunteer mentor isn't entirely happy with, whether that's business or to do with pastoral care issues, then we bring somebody who's into that conversation straight away. They'll either mentor the mentor, or they will come into the conversation with the young person to make sure that we get that right.
Questions? She says, prowling up and down. I think it's always the same, isn't it? At the end of a great session, your brain's just full of it, and you don't quite know where to start asking questions. There we go. I knew there'd be somebody if I gave you enough time to think about it.
Hi, I'm Ino. I work for IKEA. I have a question for you, Ivell. How do you match the mentors and the mentees? Is that all done manually, or do you have some sort of a Tinder app for that?
I wish. I was thinking about it quite a bit and thinking about different solutions. But generally, we left it very open. And there were only a few criteria whom not to match, which was not in the same line of hierarchy. Preferably someone who doesn't really work with the other department. So if I didn't know the person, I was working at HR marketing side, and I was matched with finance, with the CFO. And also not match. I had a couple of cases, but literally 3, that they came to me and they said, well, please don't match me with that person. I'm really scared of her. And yeah, that was the objective, to bridge the gap as well. But I didn't want to jeopardize the whole relationship because they were scared from the beginning. So obviously we didn't match them together. And then different countries did different things. Sometimes they matched based on the interests of both, actually. More mentees, they didn't really have much needs to be matched with whoever. But then the mentors, they were thinking more of their career. I want to go towards that direction. It would be great if I have the contact there. And we kind of managed to say yes to that. The idea was to really give 5 preferences from the list of the mentees, and basically everybody's preferences were met. But it wasn't a huge process. The more impact was, more focus was really on preparing the mentors rather than matching them.
You're practiced at this now.
Thanks very much. That was an exceptional talk. It seems that the 6 meetings, in many ways, are sort of a catalyst. To what extent do these relationships continue? Do you see sort of a generative impact kind of following from these sort of initial synapses?
Officially, we didn't really track it afterwards. But yeah, I could see a lot from the first batches that I was really close with before it went crazy in the whole world. I could see that a month up to 4 months afterwards, they were still keeping in touch, which was pretty cool. And me, I can tell you personally, I had 6 mentees myself, and I'm in touch with 4 of them, which is already 3 years afterwards. And it's not every month, obviously, but naturally, what happened was that the mentees felt not really obligated, but felt grateful that there is someone teaching them. They wanted to give back immediately. So they started mentoring them as well, and it was both ways, but it wasn't really pushed from the top. It was only if there was a nice match. There were quite few incidents when the connection ended up advancing the career of the mentor. One guy from a graduate program in Belgium, he ended up in Indonesia for a job, for his dream job whatsoever, that normally he wouldn't have that much exposure. But that was side effects, still very positive though.
I'm afraid at the moment, but I'm sure that if you want to carry on the conversation with either Eva or David, that they'll be happy to do so at the end of the session. Thank you very much for attending this morning, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks very much.
Thank you.